Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Webisode. A brand new year is here, and it's the perfect chance for us to hit refresh and reimagine our wellness journey. My name is Andrew, a health services specialist here at Geisinger, and I am thrilled to be joined by Laina, our wellness senior coordinator and health coach. Today, we're diving into practical, feel good ways to set goals that actually fit our life and our lifestyle. So let's make this year about real progress and some lasting habits. So thank you for joining us today, Lena.
Thanks for having me.
Before we begin, I'm just going to share our general disclaimer. This information is being provided in order to increase your awareness. It is not intended to be used as medical advice. If you believe that you have any medical conditions or specific questions regarding your health, please see your physician. So again, thank you for joining us today, Lena.
Yeah.
And a new year often feels like a fresh start. For so many of us, that means setting New Year's resolutions, out with the old and in with the new. It's a super popular tradition that a lot of us, including myself, partake in.
Yes.
However, many Americans, many Americans make resolutions every single year, and in 2025, large amount did. However, there is a catch. Only about a quarter of those adults that make those resolutions stick with them even after the first month. So to begin with our first question, since we'll be talking about setting goals today, can you start us off by just simply defining what the difference between setting a goal is versus making a resolution? And does
Yeah.
that distinction really matter when it comes for us achieving success?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a good point to address. The simple answer is that a resolution is like a broad intention that we're making, and a goal is much more specific. So you might have a resolution like, I want to be healthier this year. So we want to focus in on the specific goal then, which we're defining the steps that you could take to achieve that resolution. So something like, I will go for a walk for 20 minutes 4 times a week. That would be a goal that you're setting to reach that resolution. I actually heard recently about this idea that I think is pretty fun for a New Year's resolution is to just pick a word that you want to emulate throughout the year. So something like consistency, positivity, authenticity. So I picked one this year, and mine is creativity. So it's not really a resolution that you would think of, but it's just something to keep in mind throughout the year. And then maybe you could be setting specific goals related to that or just to general health and wellness.
I love that. Creativity is a good one.
Mhm.
That's not one that
Yeah.
you hear a whole lot. I'm gonna have to think about what my word will be.
Yeah. It took me a while to come up with what I wanted mine to be.
Hey, that's fair. But thank you for making that clarification for us. It's very helpful to have that distinction between what a goal and a resolution is laid out in front of us. So, as we already mentioned, most people don't really stick with their resolutions very far into the year. So, what are some of the reasons those resolutions that we are so excited for come January 1 fizzle out so quickly?
Yeah, I think that we put too much focus on that broad resolution and not paying attention to the individual goals that we need to be setting. So, for example, if I was to set a resolution to lose weight, that could mean so many things. I might need to focus on healthy eating or physical activity, stress management, time management. There's a whole number of things that specifically for me, I might need to look at to lose weight. So then when I look at it that way, my resolution becomes really overwhelming. So instead, I could plan to lose weight in a less intimidating way and be more successful if I focus on one of those specific goals at a time, kind of make one change at a time.
Yeah, that's a super important clarification,
Hmm.
trying to make it more simple and more focused.
Yeah.
And there's definitely something appealing about setting New Year's resolutions as well. It's
Hmm.
that chance for a fresh start. And the beginning of a new year often feels like that clean slate that we're looking for. There's all of these possibilities, all of these opportunities, and it really makes it feel like it's that perfect time to make a change and set some goals. So my question for you is the start of a new year truly the best time to set those goals, or maybe there's another time that might have some greater success?
Yeah. A resolution is perfect for the new year when it's an intention. right? However, if we're talking about goals and when we're going to be setting those, I always say the best time is anytime and every time. So there's no start or end to our goals. We should expect them to kind of move and change constantly as our priorities and our abilities change. So we don't need to wait until January 1st or a Monday, to start to make a change. We can kind of, when we put those parameters on our goals like that, like I'm going to start next Monday, it really makes it feel like an all or nothing. Like I have to be perfect starting on this day. So let's say that I was to set a goal around like reducing sweet snacks during the workday, and I'm going to start that on Monday. Well, what am I doing between now and Monday? Am I eating all of the cookies in the break room? What if I do start on Monday though, and then I end up having a cookie on Thursday? Do I just give up and start again next Monday? So instead, I can decide anytime that I want to make a change, and I can work towards that change every time that an opportunity arises. Nobody's perfect all the time, and we don't need to be. We just need to be a little bit more consistent over the long run. And that doesn't have like a set time starting on Monday or January 1st.
I think that's super important. It feels like Monday's always the day we pick, right?
It is. Well, next
Mhm.
Monday, I'm going to change my whole life.
Next
Yeah.
Monday. That's the clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, many people will set the same New Year's goals year after year without giving a whole lot of thought on that preparation. So, for instance, someone might decide, like you mentioned before, to lose weight. So, every single year, that goal is to just simply lose weight. And despite repeating that goal every single year, they often will struggle to see any form of lasting success. So, in your opinion, what kind of preparation or maybe some self reflection can we do before setting these goals? And is there any maybe specific questions we should be asking ourselves along the way?
Yeah, I think self-reflection is really important. We kind of want to think about what our motivation is, what's important to us, identify our priorities. And so those are some of the specific questions that we can be asking ourselves to set those goals and make it more tailored to that resolution, maybe, and getting a little bit more specific.
Yeah, that's important. And building on
Mhm.
that, it's super interesting to note that the most common New Year's goals, as I mentioned before, losing
Mhm.
weight, exercising, improving that diet, it really
Mhm.
shows how committed we are to improving our physical well-being and our overall health. So what do you think the most important steps we should be taking to set those realistic, healthy goals?
Yeah. Um, Usually whenever I work with people through health coaching, we focus a lot on identifying our barriers, right?
Mhm.
So let's run through maybe an example. I set a goal around losing weight, and so I decide then I need to focus on healthy eating. That's a great start, but we can take it a step further. I might then say that I'm eating out too often, so I want to cook more at home. Great, we got even more specific. But we can even take that a step further. What are the barriers that have been stopping me from doing that already? And so there's a lot of steps involved in trying to cook more at home. It might be that my barrier is deciding what I'm going to eat every day. Or maybe I struggle with getting to the grocery store. Maybe I'm not prepping my food ahead of time and that's holding me back. Maybe I don't like cooking, so actually making the food is difficult. Maybe I have the food, it's healthy, and then I just keep deciding I don't want to eat that. I want to have something else. So I need to identify what is my specific barrier. And so maybe it's that I don't have healthy food in the house. And when I am ready to cook, then I would want to set a goal around write down a meal plan, order my groceries every Sunday. Maybe I have the healthy food in the house, but I never have the time to pack my lunch in the morning. So my goal might be to get my lunch together the night before. These goals are really specific to me, but they directly relate to my goal of losing weight. And that's going to look different for each person.
Yeah, that is excellent advice to identify those barriers. I know for me, just when you're reading through that, it's very relatable. I
Mhm.
love to cook. I hate having to think about what I need to cook or what I want to make. So that's a
Yeah.
great little tidbit there. And as
Hmm.
you mentioned, you work with participants every day who are
Hmm.
striving to improve their health. You're guiding them to set those meaningful goals and most importantly, staying accountable. So from your experience, what do you think the most powerful motivators for someone is when it comes to change?
Yeah. The most effective motivators that I see are probably recognizing your effects or I'm sorry, your efforts and your successes. So, we're all way too hard on ourselves. Most people always think like I should be doing more, I could be doing better. And again, no one's perfect, and you don't need to be perfect to be successful. So maybe you think that you need to be running on a treadmill to start seeing some weight loss. But if you're getting up, you're being more active, you're less sedentary throughout the day, and maybe you're going for a walk in the evening, you're already improving your health. So it's
Mhm.
good to recognize that effort that you're putting in and be proud of yourself. And then as far as recognizing your success, stop looking at the number on the scale as the most important change. It's not an
Mhm.
indicator of your overall health. And honestly, it takes time to see that number move. It always seems to take way longer than we think it's going to. We're putting in so much
Absolutely.
effort, and that number is just not doing what we want it to do. Um, so when people set a goal around weight loss as their biggest motivator, they're more than likely going to give up on this goal because they think it's not working. You're making those changes, you're not seeing the scale move, and you're like, well, I guess I this just isn't working for me. I need to completely
Mhm.
change what I'm doing. So we need to recognize in the meantime all of these other really important changes and successes along the way to keep us on track with our goals and to keep us motivated. So you could think about something like, I'm getting stronger. I'm not as
Mhm.
winded going up the stairs now. I have more energy. I'm sleeping better. My cholesterol went down. My heartburn went away. My skin cleared up. My mood's improved. I just feel really good about myself. You're going to see all these changes pretty quickly, a lot of them, and it's gonna happen more than the scale moving quickly. So and these are, like, huge successes too. It's
Mhm.
something that you should be recognizing and be proud of, and that's what motivates us to keep going. We're seeing the changes that matter, and we know that what we're doing is working, and despite that darn scale, it's working.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I love how you brought
Mhm,
that up about not focusing on the number. Like you said,
mhm,
just to reiterate that so many more beneficial things than just a number on a scale. How we feel, how are things like our
mhm.
cholesterol or blood sugar, so much more important, but still
Right.
very interesting to see what is really driving us to be our better selves. And
Mhm,
speaking of that, oftentimes motivators for change are going to be things like our families, our friends, and our
mhm.
loved ones. So, in your opinion, how important is that support system? Again, whether it's family, friends, or maybe groups in helping somebody achieve their goals?
Yeah. That's a great motivator. It really does help us to stick to our goals when you have people rooting for you or making a change
Mhm.
alongside of you. But that's one of the things that's really out of our control. Um, so if you have a supportive partner and they're excited about making healthy food, eating the food that you're cooking, helping you to make these good meals, or maybe you have a friend that's like, let's start going on walks together through the neighborhood in the evening, then great. Definitely tap into that support. But a lot of people might not have that, and that's okay. You don't have to have that kind of support to be successful. You can always look in other areas to find support. Maybe like joining a workout class where you have that kind of accountability and camaraderie with the other people in the class. There's a ton of Facebook groups for any interest that you might have, and that can be supportive. You could join a local hiking club, or, you could talk to one of us health coaches and
Yeah.
we can be your support and help you be accountable to the goals that are important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important to note the resources that are directly in our control, not
Mhm.
focusing too much on the things that we can't control. So if we
Right.
could control the groups that we're in, the clubs, and like you said, health coaching, that's
Mhm.
super important.
Yeah.
And I know, at least for me, that life can get so busy that staying
Mhm.
focused is often a challenge, constantly being pulled in different directions. My plans will change, whether it's throughout the week, the day, the hour. It feels like I'm always being pulled into different directions, and I'm spending so much time playing catch up and trying to refocus. And I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that. So my question for you is, with all of that busyness, with all of that unpredictability in our lives, how could we really keep these goals, front and center, not letting them either slip through the cracks or get put on the back burner when things tend to get a little hectic? Or maybe there is a time that we really should just let go of that goal.
Right. Yes, definitely. There are times for sure that we might need to let go of a goal. Goals are not set in stone. We're going to go through different phases of life, and our priorities are going to change and our abilities are going to change. So, if you had an injury, you might not be able to go to that Zumba class right now. And so, being able to pivot, still keeping your goal in mind, or maybe your intention in mind, but changing that individual goal. So, maybe you start stretching more, keeping up with your physical therapy appointments if that's what you're doing
Mhm.
with that injury. Your goals when you're in your 40s are going to look a lot different from whenever you were in your 20s, or whenever you have kids versus whenever you didn't have kids. So we kind of need to be aware of that and be setting goals that are realistic to where we're at in life right now and not being hard on ourselves again, that it might not look exactly like we thought it would. So, with all that being said, we still need to be honest with ourselves. Are you truly unable to reach this goal right now versus are you not really putting in any effort towards that goal?
Mhm.
And if that's the case where you're not really wanting to put the effort in, then we want to go back to the self reflection of why is this important to me? And maybe we even realize that it's not that important anymore. My priorities have changed and I want to focus on something else now. And that's okay. So maybe our desire to reach that goal is still present though, but we're not able to put in the effort as much as we would like to, and we're struggling. So maybe let's change the goal and pivot like how we're approaching it. So check in with yourself regularly to make sure that your goals are beneficial to what you're looking for and don't be afraid to change them.
I love what you said about changing a goal and not getting stuck in that headspace that just
Right.
because I set this, I cannot tailor it. Because I think that's something, a
Right.
pitfall that a lot of us fall into. It's okay to change that
Mhm.
goal.
Right.
So with that being said, it's super easy and common to get derailed, even when we do have that plan in place and we've considered some of these roadblocks, some of these challenges, barriers. It's so easy just to fall off track without noticing.
Mhm.
And then once we do kind of fall off track, it becomes that all or nothing scenario where we give up, we feel defeated, like there's no hope. So if
Mhm.
you were speaking with somebody health coaching and they
Mhm.
tell you that they have, gotten off track on their progress, what advice would you give them?
Well, the first thing that I say is don't beat yourself up about this. you know, nobody's perfect. I've said that like 4 times now, and this is a lifestyle change. So it's not a 30-day program that has a start and an end date. You're going to need to make changes throughout it, because you want it to be long lasting. And anything long lasting is going to have some ebbs and flows. But if you're
Mhm.
struggling to get back on track again, like I just said, you could switch up your goals, try something different, to kind of remotivate you, reinvigorate you in what you're doing. Remember that your resolution is an intention, but your goals are specific and those goals can change.
Mhm.
So, going on a hike, swimming, going to the gym, or doing a workout video at home, those are all equally beneficial goals, and they all still support that resolution that might be, I want to be more active.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. And with that line of thinking, and really to sum up our time here today, is there a type of roadmap that maybe you could share with us that would help us create some realistic, attainable goals that will fit our lifestyles that we could take away from today and that we could stick with these for the rest of the year?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple different tools that you can use for building an action plan that is sometimes called an action plan or a goal. Um, so some of the overarching things are that you want it to be something that you actually want to do.
Hmm.
Not something that somebody else is telling you that you need to do or what society says needs to be done, but you have to be interested in this. I am not a runner. I'm never going to set a goal around running. That's just not going to happen. I would be miserable. But I
Me
like to go
too.
hiking. So, I'm going to choose something that I want to do. And we want it to be realistic and achievable, right? Again, I'm not a runner, so I'm not going to say that my goal is to run a marathon by the end of the year or something. So being realistic with yourself and what you're capable of, what you want to do. And then we want it to be really action specific. So, again, kind of this idea of the resolution and the goal, you might want to be decreasing your blood pressure, but that's not an action. We would instead say, I'm going to increase my exercise, or I'm going to try to make healthier meals, or something like that. The outcome would be that you lower your blood pressure, but our goal that we're setting, our action plan, is much more specific. So, one other arching thing would be your confidence level. So we always ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you're going to be able to achieve this goal over the next couple weeks? And we want the answer to be a 7 or higher. Because if you're not feeling confident, we're kind of just setting ourselves up, to
Mhm.
fail. And that's not what we want at all. We want to be successful with this. So that's when we say, okay, if you're feeling at a 5 or a 6 with this, then let's reassess the goal. Maybe instead of saying, like, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week over the next couple weeks, and your confidence is a 5, well, then how would you feel about going to the gym 3 times a week? We can ease into it at a place where you feel comfortable, and then work up, if that's something that you're interested in. So there's an acronym for this: SMART goals. So SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So specific includes details of who, what, when. Measurable, you want to identify what will happen when the goal is achieved. Achievable, realistic, not ideal. Relevant, it's relevant to best practices for health and wellness. And then time bound, include a specific timeline for accomplishing your goals. So if you're interested in this more, you can always look up SMART goals or action plans, and there'll be a ton of stuff, online or even within Geisinger's information resources and everything about how to set these and kind of mapping it out even more.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, especially
Yeah.
SMART goals, extremely beneficial, extremely
Yes.
useful. Try to recommend those whenever possible.
Hmm.
And I also just want to thank you so much for your time
Of
today,
course.
for your tips, your insights, and just sharing some of your
Hmm.
stories and with
Yeah.
everybody that tuned in today. I
Hmm.
think this conversation incredibly helpful. There's so much to take away about setting some
Hmm.
creative health and wellness goals that are going to stick with us as well as being attainable. So as you mentioned before about health coaching, if anybody on the
Hmm.
call today, if you need help setting some of these SMART goals, our health coaches like Laina are here to help. They're certified, knowledgeable, and most of all caring. You will experience, interactive, personalized sessions at no additional cost to you. So that's a big one. And you'll
Yeah.
have access to unlimited coaching sessions as well. So you
Hmm.
could set that up simply just by calling us, and I will put this number in the chat, but I'm just going to read it off in case you have a pen and paper out. That's 866-415-7138 to schedule. And again, I'll put that in the chat. If you do have any questions or feedback about today's session, feel free to send them to wellness@geisinger.edu. Again, I'll also put that in the chat for us. And don't forget to join us next month when we'll be talking about our Spring into Wellness Challenge and how you could all get involved in that. So again, Laina, thank you so much for your time today, your excellent advice and tips.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Everybody have a great day.
Absolutely. And you too. Thank you.